summary of the conference in 10 minutes or in 20 minutes is really an impossible task. I just want to share a few thoughts with you. Let me begin by quoting two lines from the document. Al-Azhar and the Catholic Church ask that this document become the object of research and reflection in all schools, universities, and institutes of formation. And I think this is what we have done in this Congress. We have taken seriously this invitation from the two signatories themselves. I think they will be happy, they will be proud. Certainly, I am proud of what we have accomplished together, and I would like to thank you, each one of you, for your contributions, particularly those who prepared a contribution, but not only them, also all of you present, because through your questions, through the interactions during the break, during yesterday, during the outing, later today, through all these questions and interactions have helped to enrich our conversation. Yesterday, I'm afraid I was not able to follow all the interventions because at certain moments we had to choose. But I look forward to the publication of the proceedings. I want to recall one of the interventions we heard yesterday. The speaker said basically that interfaith dialogue and geopolitical calculations both aim at the same, both aim at peace, at achieving peace, but with very different strategies. Interfaith dialogue seeks to create a peace that is based on trust, while our speaker said geopolitical calculations ultimately seek a peace that is based on power relationships. And of course, it's a bit of a simplification and a caricature in that sense, but there is some truth to it. And I think because of this, because peace cannot be only based on an equilibrium of power, because that is a very fragile peace. I think that because of that, Pope Francis and the Grand Imam Ahmad al-Tayyib and others who think like them do not wish that these two approaches remain separated, but they need to illuminate each other, to cooperate with each other. Also, the Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence said here 2 days ago, he spoke about the moral force needed to meet the great global challenges of the 21st century. Moral force. I think there is a clear awareness that the future of humanity cannot be left only in the hands of technocrats, specialists of geopolitics and global economy. There is this moral force that must accompany also their work. Somebody or several of the speakers I heard emphasize that tolerance, but we could also say fraternity, must be more than a policy. It must become a tradition, because a policy by definition is something instrumental, useful, as long as it is useful. When it is no longer useful, we change it. But a tradition is something that is rooted in the character of a people, in the character of a nation, rooted on a vision of who we are and who we want to be. And in the same, allow me now to pass to more theological questions. I think also that we have spoken, some of us, about theology of religions, about the place of the religious order in our own theological thinking. Also, I would like to say that this awareness of the other, of the religious order, this attention to the other, should no longer be a policy, or the equivalent should no longer be only the domain of one particular discipline called theology of religions, but that all our theological thinking, Christian or Muslim, needs to be interreligious. In what sense do I say that? Because theology must necessarily be contextual, has to be grounded on what is going on in the context, and must tackle and address the questions that come from the context. Otherwise, theology is just repetition of eternal truths, but that has no relevance for the life of people. But if we agree that the theology and theological thinking must necessarily be contextual, okay, then the context of today in the world is an interreligious context. So Christians, Muslims, we live all, and other religious believers, in societies that are increasingly diverse, culturally and religiously. So all our theological thinking must be permeated, must be interreligious in that sense. Must cannot forget the presence of the religious order. And another strong element that I think that has been emphasized throughout this Congress is that the value of friendship, interreligious friendship, in connection with theology. I think it has been said in different contributions that interreligious friendship has a capacity to generate a deeper theological and spiritual understanding, and that this capacity should not be underestimated. It has been, again today, by Jean-Jacques Perennes, citing also Jean-Paul Vesco. I also mentioned that yesterday. One key to understanding the document on human fraternity is the friendship between its two signatories. Without that previous friendship, this document would not have been possible. And also, today has been evoked also the example of Christian de Chergé, I think is another example. No? Christian de Chergé tried to understand the mystery of Islam, mystery from his Christian perspective. And he tried to understand it starting from his closeness to Muslims. Friendship, in that sense, becomes the context in which theology operates. And friendship becomes a motivating force to look for resources in one's own tradition and to look for interpretative tools that allow one to recognize a goodness in the religious life of the friend. Always in the field of theology, it has also been suggested by one of the speakers yesterday that a theological theme that remains still open and crucial for the future is the question of difference, or pluralism. The significance of difference in God's design for humankind. I think there have been voices both in the Christian tradition and in the Muslim tradition that have told us, no, this question is already settled. And we need to resist, I think, those voices that are saying that the question of, or the theological reflection on the significance of difference in God's plans for humankind is already a theological question that is settled. I don't think so. And as I say that, I think part of the problem is how we formulate the questions. I also mentioned in my initial contribution yesterday that theology of religions in the end tries to respond to this question of whether religious pluralism, the plurality and the difference of religions is something which is just a fact or is a reality de jure, willed by God. But maybe we just need to leave this kind of binary thinking, because sometimes in the way we formulate the questions, we just limit the possibilities of answers. Yeah? So even in this question, we need to open up again. And this brings me to my last point, the question of vocabulary. I think it has also become apparent in many of the interventions I heard that we need to be attentive and to define what we mean when we use words, because are used laicite, secularism, tolerance, coexistence, pluralism, heavenly religions, and so many other words that we cannot just take, or concepts that we cannot take for granted. We really need to be clear when we formulate our thinking. And finally, the visit to the Abrahamic family house was a wonderful thing together, but also, as I was visiting the place, a concern came to my mind. The Abrahamic family should remain open also as a family and not to be exclusivist. So this Abrahamic family needs to find also ways to not to forget the other non-Abrahamic religions. Thank you very much.